Hello, good evening, my students. Welcome once again to our classes. And I can see Oro Dion, Vanessa. I wish to welcome you to the class. Welcome, Vanessa, welcome. What? No, you are on already. You are on the class. And while we are waiting for others to join us, our class today, PED 233, when week four today. Remember what we did the last time on Tuesday last week. Our topic was we tried to look at the senior secondary school syllabus as prepared by WAEC. We also looked at the criticism of religious studies as at the secondary school level. Remember that we were able to look at the syllabus as prepared by West African Examination Council. We also looked at the criticism of the religious studies. And then, we were told that the Christian religious studies was divided into 3 sessions, through which the students we are done from these 3 sections. Today, we are going to look at the model lesson notes. To write a model lesson note and the concept of conscience. My name remains Dr. Mrs. Abba. Dr. Mrs. Abba, your facilitator. I wish to welcome you, Odeon. You're welcome. We're also waiting for other students to join the lesson. Our topic for today is model lesson notes and the concept of conscience. Well, there are different methods of lesson notes. There are different methods of writing lesson notes. It depends on the one each state wants. For instance, I know that River State, where I stay, is using what they call TKT method. TKT method of writing lesson notes. TKT simply means teaching knowledge method, teaching knowledge test. TKT method. That's the method they are using in secondary school, this side in River State. And I have said that there are different methods of lesson notes. I've given you the one that is in use in this state. I don't know which is applicable in other states, because I know that my students are from various states in Nigeria. And by the end of this lesson, we are expecting that our students should be able to prepare a good lesson note on Christian religious studies, prepare a good lesson note on Islamic religious studies, and also a good lesson note on the African traditional religion. These are our expectations by the end of this lesson. We'll also expect that our students should also be able to define the concept of conscience, what conscience is. Now, to prepare a good lesson note, it will take some steps. Preparing a good lesson note will take some steps, about 7 of them, so to say. A good lesson note has about 7 steps or stages, we have said. Yeah, and the first one we're going to look at is preambles of a good lesson note. That's number one step. The second step is the entering behavior, or the previous knowledge. The entering behavior, remember that some people will call it entering behavior. It's not entering. It's not, you don't pay for the entry, into a lesson, but to entering the behavior you expect the students to have before they enter that lesson. For instance, before I started this particular lesson, model lesson notes, I went back to what we did on Tuesday. I reminded you of what the topic we did on Tuesday, which was the syllabus of Christian religious studies, or religion studies and moral education as prepared by WAEC, West African Examination Council. And I went ahead to ask few questions before I now arrived at the lesson of today. So there must be an entering behavior in writing a lesson note or a previous knowledge, which the students are coming into the present lesson from with that, Then the next step should be the presentation. While we are waiting for other students to join us, Vanessa, remember that we have said that every good lesson note must have like 7 steps. We've discussed about the preambles. We thought of the preambles, the entering behavior, which is the previous knowledge, the presentation, that's the next step. And of course, we have the chalkboard summary. Chalkboard summary here could mean, of course, we talk about them in details. We shall talk about them in details when I begin to explain them. I'm listing them for now. And the next step should be the evaluation. The next step. And then we have the assignments. That should be the next step. After evaluation, you will have the assignment in writing your lesson note. Then we have the remarks. These are the steps in writing a good lesson note. Well, we're going to look at what the preambles are like. The preamble should be, first, you must have the name of the teacher. The teacher must state his or her name. Even though you are a TE teacher, teacher practice teacher, you must put down your name in that lesson note as preamble. You must also have the student teacher's matriculation number, assuming you're a student teacher. Matriculation number, but if you are a full teacher in that class, there is no matriculation number. Then we have the date. A good lesson note must have the date. Also, a good lesson note must have the school where the lesson will be delivered. The school, the name of the school where the lesson or the class will be delivered. And the next along the preamble is the class the lesson is prepared for. The class that the lesson is prepared for. Next, after that, is the time and duration of the lesson. Time and duration of that lesson. These are the preambles of a good lesson note. The next one is the period on the timetable, the period of that particular lesson you want to teach on the timetable. The period. Is it first period? Is it second or third period? That is what we need. Then the next thing is a subject. What subject are you expected to teach? Is it chemistry? Is it biology? Or while we're talking about Christian religious education, the subject there should be religious studies or Islamic studies or African traditional studies. The next after that should be the average age of the student. The average age of the student in that particular class. The average age of the student. And right after that is the topic to be taught. The topic to be taught. What topic are you teaching? Are you teaching the birth of Jesus Christ? Or are you teaching the Hadith, as in Islamic religion? Are you teaching what are you teaching? What topic are you expected to teach? The next thing on the preamble is the reference book you're using. For instance, when we were doing the syllabus, when I taught you about the syllabus as prepared by WAEC, I told you that the book in use is, according to Christian religious studies, is the Revised Standard Bible. The Revised Standard. That's what the reference book. So Islamic religion should have its own, and as well as African traditional religion, depends on the one you are offering in the O level. The next should be the objective of that lesson. What are you expecting? What is the intended learning outcome you're expecting from the student by the end of that lesson? What do you expect? Like I have told you that before the end of this lesson, we are expecting that each and every one of my students should be able to prepare a good lesson note, or either in Christian religious studies, or in Islamic studies, or in African traditional studies. Good. And after the objective, the specific objective, the next is the instructional material for delivering the lesson. The instructional material. The instructional material. Good. So we are going over to section B. The B aspect of a model lesson note is what we call the entering behavior, or the previous knowledge. Entering behavior, E-N-T-E-R-I-N-G, entering behavior, entering behavior. That is the previous knowledge that the students are coming into the class with for that particular class. You have to state the things students have learned or done that will help them to assimilate the current lesson, that will help them to assimilate the new lesson. Then before you can now introduce the lesson. In the introduction, the teacher will ask students some questions that will make them pay attention. Angela, why are you don't seem settled for this class today? How are you? Are you okay? The Angela will get up. He will sit up. She will sit up. Like I will ask Vanessa, I hope you're all right. How was your day? Good. She will sit up. She will quickly notice that I have noticed her. So she will pay attention, good attention. That's about introduction of the lesson. The next step in model lesson note is presentation. Presentation of the lesson. If here you present the lesson, this one will come in steps, step-by-step presentation, stepwise presentation of your lesson. This is both what both the teacher and the students will be doing in course of that lesson. Step one, maybe the teacher has introduced the lesson. Now, maybe if it is a Christian religious studies, you have your reverse standard, and maybe we are reading from Joshua chapter 1. Now, everybody, let's see your reverse standard version. The students will bring out their reverse standard version. Now, you can appoint someone. Vanessa, can you read from chapter 1 for us? Start in verse 1. Now, the student is allowed, he will start reading while others are listening. After some time, you will ask the next to read. It mustn't concentrate on only one student. Otherwise, there is others may term it as favoritism or something like that, and that is not encouraged. Good. So the next step is that the student will go ahead as the students are reading or doing what he has asked them to do. The teacher will have his, if it is a whiteboard, that he has, or blackboard, chalkboard, according to the school and specification, the teacher will be writing the summary on the board, will be putting down things. Sometimes a student can come across a word with the teacher, thinks is big, very big for that class. We will put it down. So all this noting, the student will be doing it and will need to explain later. The teacher may also need to list some key words, key points on the board. You will need to explain some key words on the board, and then these key words on the board will help the students to, it will help the next step in the lesson note, in the writing of lesson note. The next step is the black or whiteboard summary, what you call the black or whiteboard summary. That whiteboard summary, remember as from your presentation, the students are doing something, you are doing something, and the teacher is taking note, writing on the board. At the end of the day, the teacher will summarize all those things he has written, and he will summarize all of them on the board to make sure that they are also following and that the students were writing down all that he was saying. And you have the teacher, for him to be sure that those things are being assimilated. The lesson, the class is being, what the teacher is saying is being assimilated. He has to form his blackboard summary. And right after that, the next step should be the evaluation. The teacher will need to evaluate the lesson. We need to evaluate the lesson, and the evaluation of the lesson will comprise of already written down questions teacher intends to ask or assess the students with. They are part of what forms the evaluation. He also listens to the students' responses as he asks those questions. The teacher will be listening to the student, because remember, it is a two-way thing. When you throw a question to the student, you need a response. You need to be sure that they are responding to the question, and to the extent they are able to respond to your question, to that extent, you know that they are actually following the class and assimilating what you are teaching. The next, after evaluation, is the assignment. Assignment. A teacher is supposed to give assignment. Supposed to give an assignment after teaching a class. After your presentation, remember, you write on your chalkboard. After the chalkboard presentation, you do your evaluation. After the evaluation, you give an assignment. An assignment is a way of assessing the students, assimilation of the topic you have taught, and to see if the children were able to achieve, if you and the children were able to achieve any of the specific objectives. And remember, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives in a specific lesson according to how you number them. the last one. And remember that in this assignment, you must give this assignment to help the students and also to help them find more facts about the topics you have taught. Then you do your remarks. The remarks is the last point on the lesson note. The last point on the lesson note while you conclude the lesson. You conclude the lesson, then you write your remark. After conclusion, you write your remark. And some people match conclusion with the evaluation. They can match them together, some separate them. And if you do that, the remarks will help the teacher. There may be, as the children were reading, you have noticed that some of them were not fluent in reading and good in reading. And you make some notes, you make some remarks. And then you will be able to find out the slow learners and the also quick learners in your class. When you get to slow learners, you will also know how to extend your good hand of teaching to them for them to be able to cope well. You know, all students don't learn at the same space. So we want to admit another of our students that want to come into the class. This student is coming quite late. I appreciate students to come early enough, like Vanessa. For Lashade, you are joining us late, a bit late. We're almost running up the first phase of this class size exercise. And we've been talking about model lesson notes and the concept of conscience. Olashade, we welcome you to the class, but please next time try and come in early. That is Olashade. Vanessa is already here in the class, and we appreciate her for coming very early. And I would like you also to join the class early next time. So we have discussed steps in writing lesson notes, and we have also said that there are various methods of writing lesson notes these days. You know, the new method or what the various methods like the PKT method, which they are using in River State, where I'm talking to you from, is has overtaken the older methods, in use. And TKT method simply means teaching knowledge test. Teaching knowledge test. That's the meaning of TKT. And we have also discussed that by the end of this lesson, we expect that students should be able to write a good lesson note, either in Islamic religious studies, in Christian religious studies, or in African traditional religion studies. And we have said that there are about 7 stages or steps that is required in a good lesson note, a model lesson note. We talked about the preambles, the entering behavior or the previous knowledge. We have the presentation, the way you present your lesson, from presentation, maybe step 1, step 2, or step 3, what the teacher and the students are expected to be doing in the class. And we have presentation. After presentation is the chalkboard summary, and we have the evaluation. After evaluation, the teacher is supposed to give an assignment, this assignment to the children. You have your conclusion and, of course, the remarks. And I have gone ahead to explain some of these terms in details, which we shall not do here, but they are also there on our site. If you can take those ones from the site. Now we want to want you to, before we meet again on Tuesday, I would like you to do this assignment for me. You can take it down. I would like you to prepare your presentation on a lesson note on any topic in the syllabus on religious and moral education. Either take your syllabus of Islamic studies, or in African traditional religion, or in religious studies education. Prepare your presentation on any topic. Make a choice of a topic from any of the syllables, either in Christian religious studies, or Islamic religious studies, or African traditional religious studies. So that is my assignment for you. I would like you to do that, do the preparation, and post it to your discussion forum, and so that all your other colleagues will look at that. We have to quickly go over to talk of a concept of conscience. What do we call conscience? What do people see conscience as? And conscience is said to be what differentiates right from wrong. Conscience is what differentiates right from wrong. Conscience. Olashade, I hope you are able to take one or two notes. And
yes, ma'am.
okay, good. Welcome. Good.
Thank you so much.
We have types of conscience. Types of conscience. Conscience. We have described conscience as what differentiates right from wrong. An action. No, she did wrong, it was the action was wrong. Someone will say, no, the action was right. What differentiates them is what we call conscience. Right. Now we have antecedent conscience. Antecedent. A-N-T-E-C-E-D-E-N-T. Antecedent conscience. Antecedent conscience simply means the judgment of conscience before the cause of an action. Before an action takes place. That is an antecedent action. Is it a wrong action or a wrong action? Was it done before that action was taking place? That is an antecedent conscience. The next is the consequent conscience. Consequent. Consequent is C-O-N-S-E-Q-U-E-N and T. Consequent. Consequent. Conscience. Remember that conscience is C-O-N-S-C-I-E-N-C-E. Conscience. We have, after the antecedent conscience, we have the consequent conscience. And the consequent conscience takes place after an action has been taken. Remember, the other one is before an action is taken. This one is after an action has been taken. That action that was taken, was it the right action or the wrong action? So that is the conscience we are talking about. Then the third type of conscience is what we call natural conscience. Natural conscience. Natural conscience. Natural conscience. Natural is the good action is always perceived to the agency of conscience. Naturally, the good action is always perceived to the agency of conscience. If an action is good, if an action is right, it is perceived, naturally, it is perceived through the agency of conscience. Okay. Having said that, of course, you will know that conscience differs from good to good. Conscience also differs from individual to individual. You often hear people say, that man, don't say, oh, he doesn't have conscience. Some other person will say, oh, that man, the man has conscience. He has conscience. The lady has conscience. The lady doesn't have conscience at all. Why should he do a thing like that? Oh, this man, thank God for him. He has conscience. He has conscience. Remember that conscience, we talk about conscience before an action is done, well, after an action is done. Then we say that conscience is an agency that propels an action. Good. And since we have said that conscience differs from individual to individual, from good to good, therefore follows that conscience is not an ultimate norm of behavior. It's not an ultimate norm of behavior because it differs from individual to individual, from group to group. And all we are talking about is, remember that our course is religion and moral education. We're talking about moral here. What is moral? How does morality come into this? And how does conscience? Conscience goes with morality, moral. And remember that different communities have what they call norms and rules and values. Societies have their values, the values they expect individuals to uphold. They have norms they expect their people to uphold, and they have different values in society. Nigerian society have its values. They value human being. There are some places you go, they say, please don't say, we value our children. And the Africans value their children. There are people who don't care. There are societies who don't care about what happened to their children. The moment they give birth to their children, they bring them to certain age, certain level, and that's all for them. For the Africans, value their children. These are values. We are talking about values. Religion and moral education has to do with values, norms, ethics, and things like that. So, and we want to look at the role of school in developing conscience in children. The role of school in developing conscience in school children. That is why you see some parents, they insist that their children must go to a particular school. There must be something they saw that made them to insist, look at those people, they upheld their moral values. They have this moral, they want to uphold. And in Nigeria, for instance, the girl child is valued. The mother will want to follow this girl, bring her up, do this, take extra care. They go extra mile in taking care of their girl child, and they make sure that they instill certain values, certain culture, certain ethics. They make sure that their girls obtain this thing. And in families, every family have their do's and don'ts. They have their values, things they value, they have their ethics, they have their norms. They don't allow their children to behave any and anyhow. So the school, what is the role of the school in developing conscience of children? Now, one of the roles is that every school, if you want to uphold your moral value, must have adequate education material to teach the children. There are some schools where parents just bring their their children and dump them there. They don't care whether they have the materials, the writing materials, or they don't. There are some states in Nigeria today, when you go, you see children learning under the trees. You see children learning in anyhow atmosphere. What is the role of the role of school in building the right conscience, the right and suitable conscience into these young ones within the secondary school platform? And we have also said that we also have to say that schools must include moral education in its curriculum in order to build the good conscience of these young ones. If you want to talk about the right conscience, you have to build up your moral education classes make sure that it's inbuilt into the school curriculum. And that is why if you go to the syllabus we studied last Tuesday, we read them, the themes. The themes are really anchored into some of the values and the ethics and cultures and norms of Nigerian society. So by the time children go through this, you won't even know that these things are going through they are imbibing them because they are there already. They see them as the normal thing and as they go through, their normal lesson. We're also saying that another role of the school is that the school must have conducive environment for children to learn. Very conducive environment. They have to learn under very conducive. If it is a classroom, like where I am now, like when you say this is my classroom, is there fan there? Is there fan, knowing that the weather is very hot this day? Are there, if it is a primary school, is there a space where children can feed their lunch boxes? Is there a trash can in that classroom of your student? If a child, mistakenly birds and erasers, will they just dump it any and anyhow in the class? Or does the child know that there is a can, a trash, where she can empty those things? There are a lot of things that can make an environment conducive, those things. So these are some of the rules of the school. Another rule expected of a school is to teach students to be good and loyal citizens. To be good and loyal citizens. For a child to be loyal, remember that charity begins at home. If you come from a home that observes loyalty, a child comes out in the morning, you will know that you have to say, good morning, mommy, good morning, daddy. Then you, as a mommy or a daddy, is supposed to call the child, hope you slept fine, how was your night, how about your dream, like that. Then when your child finishes eating, it's supposed to come to say, thank you, mommy. I appreciate the mommy that have made that food. You also need to, maybe when daddy finishes washing hands, you're supposed to remove. These are some of the duties of children in the family. And they also blend into that the values expected in a community, in your society. Then the roles, we also expect some roles from teachers who teach the children in the class. Because these children, if a teacher is, we remember the other time we said that a teacher is supposed to be modest. If a teacher is modest, you dress neatly, not depending on, on the flamboyancy of where you're coming from. No, if you dress modestly, of course, you are a model before your children, before your students. They will imbibe that value from you. They will imbibe it from you. These are some of the rules of the teacher. The teacher is expected to remind the children this, from time to time, the role of the school, the role of the teacher. They are nearly interwoven. What you're expecting to get from the school is also the expectation of a good teacher, because it's this teacher that will make sure that these children adopt these rules from the rules which the school has set out for the children. So on this note, we're going to look at some of the things we've done before so that we can round it up. That's why I said, please, you must enter the class early enough. Our time remains 5 to 6 p.m. 5 to 6 p.m. Remember that you have to be a role model as a teacher. And if you form the habit of going early to anything, early to school, remember early to bed, early to rise. You do it, you imbibe your children who are looking onto you will also imbibe some of these behaviors, some of these virtues. And teachers are very good models. They are very good. People are always looking onto them. If a teacher processes this way, you must know that he or she is a teacher. I have been your facilitator, Dr. Mrs. Angela Abba, and we've been talking since this nearly 1 hour. We've been talking about model lesson notes, writing a model lesson note, preparing a model lesson note, and the concept of conscience. The concept of conscience. I'm sure you have learned 1 or 2 things that will help you. I know that your exam is fast approaching. I hope you're doing your TMAs. Make sure that you hook online with your fellow colleagues. Know some of your, take some of your classmates' numbers so that you will interact once in a while and ask, okay, the TMA is on. Have you done yours? Remind yourselves what you are supposed to do. And please, have you seen TMA 2? Has it come out? And by the time you exchange your numbers, ask yourself these things, it serves as an encouragement, to one another. It motivates you. It helps you to know that some are there. You are not the only one in this kind of thing. Like we have Vanessa here in the classroom, virtual classroom. We have Folashade and others. I wonder why they didn't join today. We had a great number on Tuesday, and you know, even though I had a little challenge entering because of network, it was running here, and I know that some of you may have had that challenge too. So encourage one another to come to classes. You see, students were saying, we don't have facilitation, we don't have facilitation. And now has come out with this robust facilitation. I know that it's taking some data, but it's worth it. Because if you see someone talking to you, based on the orientation of our primary, secondary school, where we're coming from, where we're used to seeing human beings talk to us, you know, we expect that even in this level, we need some people talking to us, and it gives us a lot of encouragement, it motivates us, and it makes us happy. And I'm also happy seeing you in my class, and I pray that the good Lord will keep all of us to meet on Tuesday. Remember, our lesson on Tuesday is by 11 to 12 p.m. 11 to 12 p.m. on Tuesday, 11 to 12 p.m. Saturday, like this, 5 to 6 p.m. And remember that this model is of 3 modules, only 3 modules. But that 3 modules has 15 units, which we must study, finish it before we enter for our exam. On this note, I'd like to say, call it a day, and appreciate you for coming online. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much, ma. Bye.
Bye, dear. Bye, Folashade.
Bye, ma. See you on Tuesday, ma.
Okay, good. Bye, bye.
Bye, ma.